Welcome to the PitchGround Daily. Today is going to be an exciting show.
Sales is just like what oxygen is to, humans.
Learn coding at age 6, it should be learn selling, right? And I think that's more crucial.
For those of you guys who do not know Anmol, so Anmol is a sales guru. He's been ranked as one of India's top 15 sales guru in 2020, and he's the co-founder of Sales 5X. He has helped over 6,000 sales people how to master their sales strategy and has transformed over 200 businesses. And what I really love is that he's a guy with multiple hats. So when you look at his stuff, he's a stand-up comedian. He's got amazing content. And what really intrigued me was that his stand-up comedy is about entrepreneurship, marketing, and sales, which is really different, really unique. He also has a show called Business News, which you can misuse, which is really cool. Tell me a little bit about that also, like the name behind it and the idea.
Sure. Firstly, thank you for that warm intro, Nihal. So what I do with the show is I pick up news, I pick up business news, and then mix it up with comedy. Mainstream media these days, I mean, they're also doing comedy. So I thought, why not give them a tough competition? So right. So yeah, that's the concept. Basically, take up news and add comedy to it and present it in a very different format.
Amazing. So let's talk about sales now, which I really think. So today, sales is such an important skill. Because for any business, any freelancer, if you're, the thing is, so many of us have great ideas, but when it comes down to like hitting the home run, to get that sale in, we're just not able to close it. And I think so many people, especially when you're a freelancer or you're a small team, it's even more tougher because you're trying to manage so many different hats, right? Can you tell us a little bit about sales and why it's so important in business, and not just business, but in your own life as well?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said that sales is perhaps the most crucial function for a business. If you look at business, sales is the only function which is bringing in money. Other than that, everything is taking money away from the organization. You've got marketing, you've got product, you've got logistics, HR, R&D. Everything is taking money out of the organization. Sales is the only function bringing in money. So for a freelancer, for an entrepreneur, I think their focus should be on sales, is to bring in those clients. I'm not saying that the product or your technical expertise is not important. It is, but if there's no sales, then there's no use of that expertise, right? So I see a lot of freelancers who are very good at what they do, really good at their work, but they can't sell themselves. When a query comes in, they're not able to present it in a manner in which they can close the deal. And I think that's where a challenge is for a lot of freelancers and entrepreneurs. Great ideas, great expertise, but then end of the day, if you're not able to bring the deal, it's going to be a problem.
Exactly. And I think to elaborate on that, like sales is just like what oxygen is to, humans. The same way that we need oxygen to like thrive and to live and just to, be alive and grow. That's the same way that sales is, because money is the cash flow of any business, and you could have the best product, but then if you're not able to bring in the home run, you're going to start to go down, right? So that's definitely something which you really need. So I was just, based on what you were saying, do you think it's absolutely required that everybody in a team should be trained as a salesperson, or is it completely okay to kind of have it as, you have a sales team and maybe the entrepreneur or like the leader can focus on, product development? And what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think everyone should have gone through that experience. It's not that, you build a sales team and you're isolated from it. I think instead of, the learn coding at age 6, it should be learn selling, right? And I think that's more crucial.
Definitely.
Because sales as an experience teaches you a lot. Like, let's say you're an entrepreneur, you've built a product. When you get your first 5 B2B clients or your first 50 B2C clients, you understand how the customers perceive that product. You understand the shortcomings, you get feedback, which you can actually use to build that product. But if as an entrepreneur, you're like, hey, sales is not my cup of tea, make it your coffee then. Make it whatever, right? You've got to get your hands dirty and actually sell, because the experience is invaluable, especially for an entrepreneur. And once you've done that, of course, the idea is to build a sales team which will go out and sell for you. But if you miss that phase where you're doing it yourself, where you get that, your first touch point with the customer, if you skip that phase, it's very easy for a sales team to, probably be completely clueless. So to answer your question, yes, you need to build a sales team down the line. Eventually, as a founder, you cannot be doing sales yourself, right? Then you're it's not a team as such, it's just a freelancer then. But having said that, you should have got your first 20, 30 customers yourself.
Definitely. I've been reading about things that, everything in life is also a negotiation, right? So everything we do, whether it's even deciding, where do you want to go to eat, just convincing somebody like, hey, let's do this or let's do that. The choice that you make every day, it all falls into sales, right? Because sales in the end is it's almost like negotiating. So
Right.
Do you think when all of us, like you mentioned, instead of learning how to code at age 6, but if you start learning how to be a better salesman or woman at age 6 or 7, does that equip you with better skills to be more successful in life? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I'm completely sold onto that. I think schools and colleges should teach you sales, because at that point you learn what rejection is. You learn how to pitch your product or service, and then you understand, hey, this is why that person didn't buy. They didn't understand the concept. So it's a lot of learning. You understand the nuances of how do you communicate, how do you speak, how do you greet, how do you handle objections, how do you handle conflicts, right? And all of these things come up. And the worst part is schools and colleges are not teaching this. So end of the day, we are, like, let's say, freelancers, entrepreneurs, great products and services. But again, this is really new to us. But this is what matters, right?
Definitely.
This should be part of the curriculum. And this is something which, if it can be introduced, at least at the college level, nothing like it.
Definitely. Awesome. So that's really, really insightful. So I know when a lot of people who are starting, not even necessarily freelancers or like small startups, but even big companies today, they still kind of struggle with sales. So could you tell us a little bit more with your expertise? What are some of the biggest mistakes you've seen people make when it comes to, getting their sale?
Yeah, well, first thing, of course, is the sales culture. There are organizations which don't have a strong sales culture. When I say sales culture, it's basically how motivated the team is, how equipped the team is the team undergoing regular training in sales? Are they having their group meetings where they're discussing the best strategies, best practices? I think that's a very solid culture that you want to build. Oftentimes I see companies, where every salesperson is working in isolation. They're trying to beat targets, trying to outdo the other, but they don't have a strong sales culture, right? Sometimes it's even things that can go wrong. For instance, if you put a good salesperson in a bad environment, that salesperson will eventually become one of those bad apples, right? And vice versa. If you put someone who's not so good at it into an environment which is competitive but still collaborative, that person starts improving. So one of the core mistakes, of course, is building that sales culture. And I think if organizations don't get it right early on, it's a disaster waiting to happen.
I'm sure as a trained salesman yourself, I think every salesman, before you get that final yes, you hear, an onslaught of no's, right? I'm sure you guys probably hear the most no's than anybody else would probably hear, right? So could you tell us a little bit about your journey and the no's that you would have, heard, and maybe a mistake that you've learned from in your journey?
Sure. As you said, you will hear a lot of no's, but then the important thing is, what do you do after it? If you're going to do the same pitch every time and you hear that answer, you hear a no, I don't think you're learning from it. So I think what's very important is when you hear a no, you go back and analyze, okay, what possibly went wrong? What I've seen is a lot of people are trying to overdo the selling part, right? They're trying to shove the product down their customers' throats. All this doesn't work today. Like if let's look at the word sales. It's a taboo subject, right? We all have negative connotations around it. Right? The moment we hear a salesman, we take 2 steps backwards, right? Okay, we are not in for a sales pitch. But surprisingly, a lot of salespeople for that matter, don't factor in this whole aspect of sales, and they're just out there trying to make their commission, they think they're trying a lot to get customers to buy. I think what's very important is the reverse approach. The more you push, the more they will pull away. On the other hand, if you position yourself as someone who's out there to help customers, out there to solve their problems, and if you show them you're an expert in the particular domain that you're working in, then they take you more seriously, and sales happens as a byproduct. So this is a mistake a lot of people make. I've made that mistake many times, and then you've learned it the hard way. I think that's a message to probably all the viewers out here, is to be an expert at what you're doing so that the customer takes you seriously, and show them, give them insights versus information. Okay. Exactly. Now what's information? Insight is something beyond just an information, right? Information is something I can find from Google. Let's say if I come to you, Nihal, for a phone, let's say you're a shop. Now I know the specs of all the phones which are available, which kind of makes you redundant. What if you give me insights, which is information beyond the obvious, which you cannot find on Google? You try to analyze what kind of a person am I? Am I a selfie kind of a person? Am I a guy shooting a lot of videos? or am I someone who's using very basic functions of the phone and then recommend me the right phones? I think that's the value differentiator.
Definitely. And I think that's a great point that you brought up, because I also use my phone for a lot of vlogging, where I try to, like, because, right now when you're trying to create content and using like a big DSLR, it gets really tough. So for me, the type of phone which I need is, with like really great quality. And I think if somebody is able to, like, I think the main thing about a salesperson is like actually knowing all of your products. You physically use everything yourself, you know it in and out, so you're not giving that redundant information like you said, because Google is there and today's customers are very well educated. So it's going above and beyond, meeting them halfway and giving them the value. That's an amazing point. I think, like you said, a lot of people do look at sales like it's manipulation, right? So people think if somebody's trying to sell, they're just trying to get what they want and they feel it's manipulative. And that's why we kind of step back. So definitely meeting that value. And so can you tell us, like, I feel a lot of people today, we feel that we live with this adage that customers are always right. And I think that creates a little bit of problems as well. I know customers, especially with a business, your customers are, your most important asset. But like, if the customers are always right, sometimes they do have really crazy demands, or they want discounts, or they're not meeting you equally. So how do you deal with that issue when the customer is not meeting you halfway?
Right. In fact, I've done a stand-up piece on just this subject called Indian customers, right? in which I talk about the fact that customers are not always right. Let's accept it. Customers, as you said, are sometimes very demanding. They want the maximum bang out of their buck, right? At the cost of just being too demanding, which you cannot fulfill. I think it's very important for you as a salesperson to be assertive, not aggressive. I think that's the difference between the two. Thin line of difference being between assertive and aggressive. I think you should hold your foot firmly on the ground and say, this is not the scope of work that we're going to deliver. This is not, which is something that we can offer to you. Hey, this is not part of the project that we agreed to. And I think it's absolutely fair, to say that. But as you mentioned, a lot of people shy away from saying it, They think that, hey, are they going to offend the customers? Will the customer come back to them again? But look, if you don't put your foot on the ground, you're going to be taken advantage of, and this is a vicious circle, right? It's never going to stop. It's not that the customer takes that extra bit of thing for which you have to put in a lot of effort and he stops there. No, he's going to want more of it. So this is only going to come back to you again. If the customer's wrong, I believe you need to be assertive and point it out. Don't be aggressive. Don't be pushy. In which case, the attention moves from being what is right to who is right. Again, thin line of difference between what is right and who's right. We don't want the conversation to go towards who is right. Then it becomes like an ego tussle, an ego battle, right? But I think you need to stand up at some point, and I think customers actually respect that. Right? It's actually reverse psychology. So if you were to be my customer and we've got a certain deal going on, a kind of a agreement that this is what is offered, and you ask me something extra, if I can help you with it, I would do it. But if I know it's going to take a lot of effort, it doesn't fall in the scope of work, then I would point it out to you, and then you would take me seriously for that, right? Next time,
Exactly.
Let me give an example. Let's say your customer scheduled a meeting and he skips twice. I'm not sure if you should just go along the chain and keep rescheduling depending on his whims or fancies. I think you should say, hey Nehal, I understand that you were held up, but please let me know, because even I had to reschedule few meetings. Right? So let me know, time which works for both of us. So I've said it in a fairly decent tone. I don't think that would offend you, but it would still remind you, okay, look, I cannot do it the third time.
Exactly. That's really interesting. I actually read this book. I'm forgetting the name of that book now, but I remember it's basically talking about sales and the art of negotiation, and how all of us humans have this alligator mind, right? Which is our instinct as animals, right? And that's why when we look at sales, the first thing is kind of to step back. And exactly what you said, your point of being more assertive is definitely a great point, because I remember in that book, he mentioned that, when he walks into a meeting, what happened once in one of his experiences was that the guy who was having a meeting with said that, okay, let's make this quick. I only have 2 minutes. And the guy who's making the pitch responded saying, that's fine. I only need 1. So what happens in that case is that he's positioning himself where he's not taking the upper or lower level. You've always got, that the same, you're equal. And it really puts you in a position where your customer or whoever you're going to make that pitch with really respects you as well and your time. So that's an amazing point. So speaking of this, and how we talk about how customers are not always right, can you tell us maybe one of your funniest instant, or like the wackiest instance that you've probably had I would love to hear it.
Oh man, there are too many of them. I think the meeting example was something that happened recently to us. So this was the customer kept rescheduling the calls, okay, and at one point of time, it kind of seemed that he doesn't respect your time, and it's very important to put that in place, to size him down to like, look, you cannot keep doing this. So we wrote an email to the client, and it was again, so we read it twice, in the sense we proofread it to make sure that it is not aggressive but assertive, and I think the customer understood the point and he apologized for it. But if we hadn't done that, I think we are also setting the wrong expectation. If you don't set the right expectation at the right time, then again you're in for a hard time. Right? So that was something that happened fairly recently. The other thing that I see a lot of people is begging clients, that, hey, they're always like, hey, give me your business, give me your business. I think that as you're talking about that word positioning, right? Very, very powerful. If we spoke about freelancers, if you, as a freelancer, if the vibe that I'm giving you, and then let's understand that the vibes are very important. If the vibe that I'm giving you is, hey, Nihal, I need you, right? I need it now. Your business will help me pay my rent, right? And it's very visible. It's visible in the way I message you, how many times I message you, the language, right? I know, that I'm desperate for the deal. So you will negotiate with me very hard. You will drive a very hard bargain, and you will squeeze every penny out, right? So I think that's the game of positioning that you need to win, right? And if you lose it, then you'll never be able to create a win-win, right? Then that's what negotiations is all about. I mean, it's you ending up on the winning side without them knowing it.
Definitely. Amazing points. Anmol, can you tell us a little bit about your stand-up comedy? So I really love how you're able to do so many things. I also know that you were also like an EMC before, a master of ceremonies, and that's definitely helped you kind of, master the art of like being witty, being on your feet all the time, being able to influence people, and like your journey. And now you're also doing stand-up comedy, and you've got amazing business content. So how is that kind of like how has it come into your life, and how has the stand-up comedy been for you?
Oh, it's always been a part of me. I think I've played the fool back in school and college. Right? I was always the guy, cracking the joke. Not saying the good joke was good or bad, but then others would get caught because they were laughing. Right? So I've always been that guy, and so I've had 3 startups which failed, which didn't work out. So I converted all that into stand-up content. That's where my source of content is, right? So that's been the journey, and I love every bit of it, because I think there is a lot of space for business comedy, which is largely untapped. While there are a lot of mainstream comedians, very few are tapping into the business segment. Of course, we've got the corporate side of it. In fact, I have a set called Startup to Shut Down, which is like 45 minutes of stand-up comedy all around, starting up, building a team, getting investors on board, getting customers, to eventually shutting down the company if you don't, right? So, so basically all the struggles, that an entrepreneur goes through, I've tried to, bring it down into that set. Amazing.
And I think that's so interesting how you've taken, having 3, you say that you had 3 startups which kind of failed, and you converted that into stand-up comedy. And that's really amazing. It's so amazing to see people who keep pushing itself. And I think something I really believe in is like, there's no actual failure when it comes to success. So success is always, the progressive realization of a certain goal. And as long as like, no matter how many times you kind of fall down, but if you're still going for that goal, you're being more and more successful. So that's amazing. Absolutely love this session. At the end, we always try to get a little bit, understand our guests a little lot more with a rapid fire round. A few rapid fire questions for you. So Anmol, can you tell me, what is your favorite book?
Influence by Robert Cialdini.
If you could have any mentor in the world, or you could be with anybody in this, like meet somebody right now, who would it be?
Floyd Mayweather.
Amazing. How come?
I mean, his mindset. So he, for all the viewers, he's one of the best boxer in the world, perhaps.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I've seen some of his videos, and I love that mindset. I mean, this guy has no schedule. He's just practicing day in and day out. Particularly a video of his which I saw on the internet. This is like 3 a.m. and he's driving to his gym, and he's like, do I want to go to the gym? He says no, but do I have to? He says yes. So I love that kind of a mindset. He's always going for it. So it's always been on my mind to probably sit down with this guy, quiz him, and just, I think his energy is so infectious that even if I want to talk to him, it'll just pass on to me. So So he's one guy I would definitely want to meet.
Awesome. Could you describe entrepreneurship in one word?
Roller coaster ride. Okay, that's 3 words. I'm not sure if it qualifies. I would say it's a journey.
What is your favorite social platform?
Instagram now. I think off late I've been more active on Instagram. I think, yeah.
So you would choose Instagram over YouTube? Because I've seen you've been really active on YouTube. You've got a good channel.
Yes, but things have kind of started picking up more on Instagram. I love the memes on Instagram. You know, I've subscribed to a lot of those pages, so they keep coming in. And I think Instagram is something that I think I use more compared to the other platforms.
And when is the last time you stepped out of your comfort zone?
That was about 2 hours back. Right? Yeah, I went for 3 hours back. So I went to this army ground and they have this horse riding thing, right? So I actually did a session I was on the horse, so it was kind of scary because you never know. Like I've seen a lot of incidents with horses, so it was definitely beyond my comfort zone. So yeah.
So you just went horse riding and came back?
Yeah, but this is of course under the supervision of the army guys, right? So there's this army land right opposite my house. So every evening they have sessions. So I'm like, okay, let's do it today. So I went there.
Awesome.
So obviously there were instructors, but yeah, I think that is sort of outside my comfort zone.
Awesome. That's amazing. Thank you so much for this session. And I just have one more question for you. So I saw that you're also into Reiki and you're a Reiki level 2 master, and you're also in, which basically is, for those of you guys who don't know, it's like energy healing and tapping into your intuition. Because I've been reading up about it a little bit, and I just want to get your thought on, do you think tapping into, like energy or using your intuition, does that really help you and make you a better salesperson? And how does it help entrepreneurs when when you tap into your intuition and let that help you kind of make decisions?
Sure. Firstly, I should commend you for the research that you've done. I think it takes a lot to actually. I don't know where you read this. Was this on LinkedIn? My bio. Yeah. So really appreciate the fact that you've actually done your research. So I think Reiki. So everything is energy, right? Reiki is just the science of using universal energy and tuning in, syncing up with it, right? Because sometimes we are out of sync with that energy. Our energy channel keeps getting narrower, and Reiki helps you expand that channel. So if you look at sales, if you look at entrepreneurship, stand-up comedy, end of the day, it's all energy. We are all vibrating at a certain frequency, and let's say sales, right? So you're connecting with a customer. What is that? It's basically energies matching. It's as simple as that. If I'm doing a stand-up act, I'm trying to make you laugh. It's energies connecting. Right, that's what every interaction is at its basest form, right? So I think it definitely helps. It's helped me a lot in the past because it gets you in tune with the right energy. You get into the right mindset, and once you're in the right mindset, I think things just flow. So it's basically allowing things to happen, and I think Reiki goes a long way in helping you do that. So for anyone considering to take it up, go ahead. I mean, it could just do wonders.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Guys, this is Anmol, and thank you for being on the PitchGround Daily Show. It was a pleasure having you. So this show is all about bringing on hustlers onto the show for our community to help hustlers like everybody else who's tuning in right now to help them grow. And I think everything you shared today was incredibly insightful, and definitely sales is something we all need to take home no matter what we're doing. So thank you for being on the show, Anmol. It was amazing.
Cheers, Nayal. Thank you so much. And you've been a great host. Cheers, guys.